An international team of genetic experts examined the ancient DNA extracted from 93 individuals. All these people died over a period of 1,500 years at 5 different sites in the Middle East. All of them were part of the Canaanite civilization, which thrived for some 4,700 years up until around 1200 BCE. However, what surprises the scientists is the length they can now make between these ancient biblical people and their modern-day descendants. Geneticists have found traces of biblical figures hidden in the DNA of modern populations. But before we get started, if you're enjoying this video, show us some love by subscribing. It's the best way to support us and never miss out. Let's get started. The Canaanites lived in the grounds that lie between current Egypt and notable Mesopotamia, which extended in a bend from the Persian Bay to the Mediterranean. Mesopotamia covered pieces of the cutting-edge Southwest Asian nations of Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Kuwait. The Canaanites lived in what today is presently Israel, as well as in pieces of current Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. The relatives of Canaan, as indicated by the scriptural record, are individuals that came to be known as the Canaanites. Be that as it may, what is similarly shocking is what the researchers had the option to distinguish about how Canaanite DNA lives on a gathering earth today. Before we dive into the detail of the associations uncovered by the specialists among old and current individuals, we should get familiar with somewhat more about the Canaanites. Be that as it may, there is a decent lot of composed proof about the Canaanites dating as far back as almost quite a while back. The earliest known notice of the Canaanites arrives in a letter found thought of exactly quite a while back. As per the existence science site, it was kept in touch with an old ruler Yasmin AD and was found in what is today Syria. It goes on about hoodlums and Canaanites living in the old town of Razin. The other entrancing texts concerning the Canaanites start from the antiquated Egyptian city of Amarna, worked by the pharaoh Akhenaten. He governed from around 1353 to 1335 BCE, and a progression of letters composed before later and during his rule give a few experiences into the Canaanites of this period. The correspondence known as the Amarna letters shows that there were really a couple of rulers of isolated city-states in the Canaanite lands during this time. The other proof from old Egyptian texts shows that the pharaohs held significant influence over the Canaanites. It appears to be that during the time of the Late Bronze Age from around 1550 to 1200 BC, the antiquated Egyptian pharaohs controlled over the Canaanite lords. Nonetheless, at different times of Canaanite history, they were autonomous, as well as the proof from noteworthy texts, including the Holy Book. Archaeological proof focuses to the Canaanites' history. The city of Jericho in Palestine's West Bank was occupied during the early Stone Age or Paleolithic period as soon as quite a while back. This city was situated in the grounds which were important for the Canaanite circle. Numerous hundreds of years passed after the establishing of Jericho before the Canaanites laid out an organization of extremely durable towns and urban communities. This occurred in the later Stone Age, the Neolithic time frame, which ran for nearly a long time from around 7000 to 4000 BC. After that came the period known as the Chalcolithic or Copper Age, which went on for around 1000 years until 3000 BC. During the Copper Age, the Canaanites resided in houses worked from harsh stones and blocks produced using dried mud. They had likewise evolved earthenware and figure out how to function with copper. Canaanite society then, at that point, took a jump forward with the beginning of the Bronze Age exactly a long time back. It was in the center time of the Bronze Age around quite a while back that the texts previously alluded to started to show up. The Center Bronze Age was likewise a period when new people groups showed up in the terrains of Canaan. These incorporated the Amorites, a Semitic peace individuals who showed up from the Upper East. They turned into the overwhelming individuals of the district's populace during this time. By the center of the Bronze Age, the occupants of Jericho and different urban communities in the locale had exchanging joins with Egypt. Then came an occasion that history specialists have named the Bronze Age breakdown. This happened when the Israelites attacked and overpowered the terrains of Canaan. As the Hebrew scriptures tells it, God guaranteed Canaan, that place where there is milk and honey, to the Israelites after they got away from bondage in Egypt under the authority of Moses. In any case, this scriptural record doesn't square with archaeological proof and the set of experiences we know from different records. We'll return to the possible genuine order of occasions in Canaan in a second. Nonetheless, we should look at what we are aware of the way of life of the Canaanites. It's additionally accepted that the Canaanites rehearsed human penance, including the killing of youngsters, the separated from human penance. The Canaanites made different contributions to the divine beings, including grain and bread, these frequently having associations with fruitfulness ceremonies. Ladies in Canaan delighted in different privileges, including land possession, the capacity to look for separate, and the chance of joining the organization. Quite a bit of Canaanite strict practice appears to have fixated on imploring the divine beings for sound rightness and youngsters. The incense exchange between Arabia, Egypt, and somewhere else went through Canaanite lands, making success. By the 8th century BCE, the Greeks had taken on the letter set made by the Canaanites, whom they called the Phoenicians. As we've referenced, the Israelites in the long run showed up in Canaan, likely around 1250 BCE. In any case, the Israelites didn't quickly wreck the Canaanites, who battled to protect their territories. To be sure, individuals of Canaan stuck onto a portion of their most significant urban communities, yet different trespassers likewise showed up in Canaan not long after the Israelites, adding to the tension on the Canaanites. They most likely shown up from the Mediterranean island of Crete the 100 years after the Israelites had showed up in Canaan. Notwithstanding, it was passed on to Saul replacement, Lord David and his Israelite armed force to overcome the Philistine gatecrashers and the leftovers of the Canaanites at long last. In present-day times, analysts have attempted to uncover the account of the Canaanites. They additionally added one more 20 people for different locales whose DNA had been broke down in a prior study. This most recent review was a helpful activity between the Jewish College in Jerusalem, Harvard College's old DNA lab drove by geneticist David Reich, as well as other review places. A piece of exploration has added extraordinarily as far as anyone is concerned of the old Canaanites. It's significant since, sadly, the Canaanites left minimal in the method of put-down proof or accounts. One of the co-creators of the most recent review uncovered something of its key findings to Public Geographic in May 2020. Lyron Carmel, a subatomic evolutionist from Jerusalem's Jewish College, brought up that people from all locales are exceptionally hereditarily comparable. The significance of this hereditary homogeneity is that it gives solid proof that the Canaanites were an intelligible group. Archaeological examinations have revealed pottery at different Canaanite locales have a red and dark style typically connected with the Caucasus Mountains. This revelation of red and dark stoneware brought up the captivating issue of how clay things normally found in the Caucasus track down their direction to Canaan, and Canaanite names add additional interest to the secret, in excess of a couple of Canaanite names evidently got from the Hurrian language as opposed to the Semitic language. The hereditary proof from the old human remaining parts shows that individuals were relocating from the Caucasus from at some point around the beginning of the Bronze Age. The Canaanite bones included hereditary material that joined DNA from neighborhood individuals who had been available in Canaanite land since Neolithic times. However, there was likewise material which plainly came from people groups who had started from the Caucasus locale. This hereditary proof gives a clarification to both the Caucasus-style stoneware and the names. Layer and Carmel told Public Geographic that this example of populous development might have involved various ways all through the Bronze Age. Explicit instances of this transitory conduct incorporated the instance of two kin, a sibling and a sister whose remains were concentrated on in the examination. A city, a significant exchanging center point, was situated in Canaanite lands in what is currently northern Israel. Hereditary proof shows that the kin family had as of late moved from the Upper East. Different models from the review included examination of sets of human remaining parts from two locales on the Mediterranean coast. Strangely, the remaining parts from those urban communities showed elevated hereditary variety contrasted with people from the inside of Canaan, maybe in view of exchanging across the Mediterranean. A prior hereditary concentrate in 2017 uncovered alarming data about individuals alive today in the Center-Eastern District. This work showed that a surprising 90% of the hereditary material that cutting-edge Lebanese individuals have is gotten from the old Canaanite. And the later review, which we're managing here, likewise arrived at a groundbreaking decision about current occupants of Center-Eastern nations. Glenn Schwartz at Johns Hopkins College, paleontologist who wasn't important for the most recent review, commented on the latest discoveries in Public Geographic. Schwartz made sense of that the current-day occupants of the locale are generally slipped from its old home. Carmel has desires to proceed with hereditary examination into the antiquated people groups of the Center East. He desires to remove DNA from the remaining parts of different people groups who are referenced in antiquated texts as well as in the Good Book. The warm environment in the district implies that hereditary material is inclined to fast decay. By the by, researchers will proceed with their careful work in the journey to disentangle the complex hereditary legacy of the people groups of the Centered East and how it reverberations as the centuries progressed. Thanks for watching. If you don't want to miss out on any of our upcoming videos, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. It's the best way to stay in the loop.